Welcome to the BusyWorks podcast. It's your host, Angry Black on the ones and twos. And today I have with me another two special guests, back-to-back weeks with special guests, multiple style. On the left, far side for you guys, we have upcoming rapper from New York. Wait, are you from New York? You're from New York, right? Yeah, from New York. Oren, what's up, bro? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Thank you for coming today. And on the right, we have a return guest, actually, young Aaron from Brigade USA. What up, my guy? What you wearing right now, though?
That unreleased.
Yeah. For the people, we got that coming soon. I guess that would have come out by the time this gets released, but
yeah, probably.
Stay tuned for that if you're interested, because that shit's fire. But yeah, boys. So how's everybody doing today? What's going on?
Good, man. We just vibing, chilling.
Yo, where's your brigade at, bro? Like, this is a brigade party.
He brought the sticker, bro. He brought the sticker.
It's right here.
All right.
And I was rocking it yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, can't have back-to-back days. I mean, what I do is, like, if I'm wearing shit back-to-back days, I just make sure I'm not seeing the same people on the second day. You know what I'm saying?
So I saw him yesterday. I had to change the hoodie.
You'd have been like, you bum.
Got to be dusty undercover,
Facts.
How I wanted to start this off with is actually based on some shit that Aaron talks about, and every time he talks about it, I like kind of roll my eyes, but it is a little bit interesting. So I want you to talk about the simulation fucking shenanigans.
You can't come off rip like that.
Yeah, absolutely, because I feel like people need to know about this shit. You talk about it, it's interesting. All right,
what do you want to know?
Break it down for us. Like, why do you feel like we live in a simulation versus like?
I don't think we live in a simulation. I think it's something that I don't even know. I think it's something that should be considered, because it's like based on the level that we've reached with quantum computing, or that we're going to reach soon with quantum computing, and just thought and everything. It's like almost like the alien conversation. Like, we can't be the only ones here, but it's like if you have a quantum computer the size of, my facts might be wrong, but I think it's if you have a quantum computer the size of Manhattan, you could run a simulation of like this entire universe, and like every single person would have their own ideas, and we all think we're special and all this and that, and it'd be like basically what we're living right now. But if you had a quantum computer the size of like a Dyson sphere, which is like when you cover your home star with it's basically a giant computer that you cover your home star with, and if the star powers it, you can have a simulation of like almost infinite universes with infinite people.
So where is this alleged supercomputer? Where would they put that undetected?
Well, the Dyson sphere is a theoretical computer that is theoretically possible. It's just that we don't have that kind of technology yet.
Oh, okay. So this is not something that actually exists.
No. It's something that scientists are like, yeah, we could do this. Like, this is possible if we, tapped into quantum computing and we like figured out how to get the resources to like cover an entire star. But like, that's like a level that I feel like could have been reached somewhere else in the universe, and maybe we're just the little experiment.
We're the result.
So you're probably talking about like the iPhone M.
Facts. Facts. Yeah.
I was like, God damn, am I on X?
But I look at it this way. Like, I tell people that because, like I said, it's not that I believe we live in a simulation, but I think it helps people realize that if we do live in a simulation, it's kind of like optimistic nihilism, like I was talking to Oren about the other day. It's like, this shit might not have
any... Break that down first. You just use a lot of big words. But,
optimistic nihilism is like... Well, nihilism, is like none of this matters, and like we're all here for no reason.
Okay.
Like, optimistic nihilism, which is what I pull from simulation theory, is like none of this matters, but I can do whatever I want. And like, if I believe in it and I'm a positive person and I have like a positive influence on my peers and stuff, or like other people, random strangers, the things will, come to fruition, basically. It's like law of attraction or like any of that, but it's just a sci-fi-y way to kind of understand it. Like, if it's a simulation, then fuck it, we're in a simulation. Let's hack it and break out.
I mean, like, also, if we can program AI and robots, then who programmed us?
God.
They're in the grid, they're in the system.
Your parents?
And so,
I don't know.
I mean, like, maybe who's our
parents?
This is why
I'm saying you can't come off with the simulation question, bro. It's a deep dive.
I'm just so intrigued, and like I don't know, like you just went on a whole like what we at time wise. That was like a good 4 minutes of like simulation talk right there.
Simulation poppy, bro. You know what I'm saying?
True.
I'm ready to go at all times.
My boy gave away the Finsta.
I definitely see where you're coming from with that shit, just because like I wake up and see some of the same people, and then some of the things are just moving in certain ways where it just feels like, yo, this is not real at all.
It's like, have you ever seen The Truman Show?
No.
With Jim Carrey? That's like my favorite movie of all time. But not only because...
Top 10.
it applies to the simulation theory too, but I feel like that's face value, the movie. It can be applied to like so many different themes in your life if you just, you know, like
Why
have an
is
open
that
mind.
big? For those who have not seen it,
I don't want to I don't want to ruin it. It's
Okay.
Everybody go see it. I don't know which camera. That shit is fire. It's on Netflix and Amazon Prime right now. But anyway, it's basically just like, yo, once you, like, we were talking about this yesterday too. Like Kid Cudi said in Indicud, like, once you realize you can do anything, you're free.
But or so let me. Do you like when he talks about this shit? Like, what is going through your mind? Like,
I mean, like, I'm on the same wavelength, you know, like, I think that this is a reality and you can control the outcome, right? And there's things to distract you from like the manifestation of your own dreams. And so you just got to stay focused and in tune with yourself and just realize like things just sometimes don't make sense. Like, you ever heard of the Berenstein effect? Like, you
Nah,
remember
what
the
is
books
that?
with the bears, the
Like,
Berensteins?
it's like the
Yeah,
Mandela
yeah,
effect.
yeah.
Like the Mandela effect, you know what I mean? Like, things just aren't always as they appear, and there are glitches in reality. And it's like, if there's glitches, then that means that there's like there's a system to it, and we can break that system.
so just break down the Berenstein effect because I have no idea what that is exactly.
Basically, like, everybody thought that Berenstein was spelled a certain way, I think like with an A, and then there was a common misconception that it was actually spelled with an E. And like, it's basically just like people had one idea of the way it was supposed to be, but in reality it was another way. But people are so convinced that it was one way. It's like, are there alternate realities, or did somebody skew with our reality and change the A to an E? It's like, is Nelson Mandela in jail? No, he's been free this entire time. So why did everybody think that? Was he in jail and then they changed reality and he's out of jail? Or was he never in jail? Or was he always in jail?
There was like,
You know?
what made it popular was everyone remembered in like the 80s or something that he died in jail. And then, you know, how long ago did he come out? Wasn't it in the 2000s?
Yeah, it was in
Or am I tripping?
2000s.
Yeah, when he came out, everyone was like,
Quote check that.
yeah, that's not a fact. When he came out, everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, this guy died in prison. Like, who is this guy? Kind of, that's the Mandela effect. That's where it started. And like, it was like, no, if you go back in time and like read our history, he never died in prison. Like, we all just imagine that.
Is there anything in your personal life that you noticed that might that resonates with that kind of idea?
I mean, yeah, it's like every day it gets worse, but something
What,
funny.
do you have an example of this week of some shit?
I'll give you
that,
I'll give you an example of literally something funny that happened like a few weeks ago. I had a pair of Oswegos, like the rafts,
yeah.
and I put them in. I basically cleaned them and they were wet, and I was trying to dry them with a hairdryer, and I like burned them. Like I burned the mesh. Like it was. I have picture evidence, bro. I can show you. I
What?
burned the mesh, and I was like, damn, like I fucked these things up. Like they're never coming back, and they were like that for like a week, and then I was like really stuck on it. Like damn, like I fucked those things up. Like I paid that money, fucked them up, and I was like, nah, they're not fucked up. And then like I went back like 2 weeks later, and they were like brand new. And I sent the picture to Elijah and Sarah, and they were like, what the fuck? And I was like, yo. And then I went back to my pictures with Elijah because I sent it to him like, yo, I burnt them. And I saved that one so it wasn't gone from history. And I was like, now I have both of them next. Let me show you.
That's bugged. So are we all doomed? Like, is there, I guess, a code, a hack to the simulation, or do we
That's
just
what.
Just do whatever the
Yeah,
fuck you want,
basically,
bro.
that's what
and
we're
just
doing.
have good intent. Don't be a fake ass bitch.
Yeah. if it comes from a place of love, and you do it, and like you have positive aspirations, and that's it. Like
That's it.
that's breaking the simulation, and you're off this shit.
Sam? So just being like a real regular person.
Niggas don't want you to do what you want with your life. People want you to work a 9 to 5. They want you to be unhappy. They want you to be distracted with the movies and the TV. They don't actually want you to pursue your dreams, bro. If you want to be a graphic designer, if you want to go ahead and do industrial design, do that shit, bro. Don't let them tell you no. Too many people told me no. Bro, your music not this. You're blah, blah, blah. Aaron, you can't make a brand. Bro, do that shit.
I love how you just whispered that whole thing. Like nah.
Like, they can hear us.
That's facts.
No, that's actually facts though. Like that's literally how we feel. It's like
Absolutely. All right, so let's make a smooth transition since we're talking about musicians, music, people, fighting systems and shit. I want to get a quick little note about the Music Modernization Act. Do you know about that at all?
The Music Monetization Act.
Modernization Act. All right, so boom, that's some shit that just recently got signed into law by 45 because we don't name him. Fuck that nigga one time for the one time. He just signed it into law, which kind of just revolutionizes the way streaming pays out to artists and just updates the laws because all the laws relevant to how artists get paid in terms of royalties, mechanical royalties, songwriting, all that shit were from like World War One, like dead, like super years old.
Didn't Steven Tyler have like a major play in that?
Yeah. So he was a part of that in favor of that getting passed. And I think that's kind of what helped it. Like, I think a lot of but there were a lot of country musicians that were behind that in terms of like supporting.
Well, isn't he rock?
Is he?
Steven Tyler. He's Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Okay,
he's right.
see, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
he was like talking about. I actually watched an interview with him talking about it.
I'm
on
uncultured twine, so I wasn't sure his genre right there. But just people that are more, I guess, respected in the U.S. than hip hop were a lot behind that, and I feel like that's part of the reason why. But basically, I can just read some quick hits from this Verge article right here. It streamlines the music licensing process to make it easier for rights holders to get paid. The allocation for music producers, which improves royalty payouts for producers and engineers from Sound Exchange when the recordings are used on satellite and online radio, and songwriters and artists from that wrote and produced songs before 1972 can finally get paid off their songs. So in layman's terms, that basically means that Spotify can't royally fuck you over when you put some shit out, and they have to increase the...
They already do, though.
Yeah. I mean, how is that? Like, we briefly talked about this on the Brain Orchestra episode a few weeks ago, about how like Spotify just fucks you like crazy.
I mean, like streaming right now is just like such a mess because like it's hard to figure out. Like, Spotify should have a system in place. Like, if he's the producer of a track, I should be able to instantly give him like a royalty cut. But instead, like, you have to manage it. Like, streaming is a mess because people don't know. Like, the whole industry is a mess basically, and it's super frustrating to like figure out how to navigate that. The labels are trying to fuck you over. Spotify is just trying to like stay afloat. You know what I mean? And like the artists keep making music, but like they don't know where and how and why they're getting paid. You know, if you get 1 million plays, that's like $4,000 for one streaming platform, which is like decent, but like, you know what I mean? It could be more. And that's the reason why I applaud artists like Jay-Z. Even though I don't have Tidal and I personally wouldn't pay for Tidal, I respect the fact that he was like, look, Spotify, Apple Music, you guys aren't paying me enough. I'm going to make my own streaming platform and give me more money on the dollar per stream.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take my music
Simulation breaking.
Facts.
That hit hard. And he took his music off their platform.
Exactly. And so did Beyonce. Yeah. Like, that's ballsy, you know? Like,
simulation
if you don't
breaking.
like something, just change it. Just be like, I'm going to do it myself.
So is this something where you've had to work some shit out with your producers or people that you work with in terms of like how they get paid? I mean, at the end of the day,
I just have to be like accountable for it. You know, like I have to be very exact. Like, I'm like, yo, Warren, this is how much we made. We're going to split this in half and this is it to the dollar. But it's like, I wish that Spotify would do that for me. Right. You know, like I wish I didn't have to do all this accounting, you know. It's hard for an artist to just be an artist today, which is better because you understand more facets of like the creative output. But at the same time, it's just like there are things that I'm doing that I wish I didn't have to be involved in on the day to day.
I was going to say, I feel like this causes the artist to be preoccupied with further stuff that's not part of the art. Like now it seems like almost like this is a come up for like for lawyers almost, you know, because now it's like, okay, producers and artists are going to need to like lawyer up in certain cases.
Most definitely.
Now.
And the lawyers just like, the lawyers are crazy too because they're like, you know, Oren, I'm going to help you, but, you know, I need 5% of your net royalties this year. So, you know, you got to pay me out. And it's like, you didn't even prove yourself yet. Like, we have to negotiate this contract and then I'll see, you know, it's like.
Like this dude who has like no sort of interest, he'll probably have like no sort of interest at all in your music, but he'll know how to navigate this legal situation for you to get more money.
I think that scenario kind of almost makes me more grateful. Because you learn how to do, like we were saying yesterday, you know, you learn how to do everything. Like Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia is one of my biggest influences. And he says he likes to be 80% proficient in as many things as possible because anything past 80% is mastery. And you should only try to master things that you're dedicating your life to. So when you're 80% proficient in as many things as possible, so say like Oren's 80% proficient in like licensing and distributing and producing and, you know, all this, he knows he can reach out to other people and not get ripped off. And he's like the better tool or like the better creative in a way because he like can do everything kind of. And he can also direct people. So like if his vision can't be fulfilled on his own terms, he can find the right people and direct them towards because he's 80% proficient because the industry made it that way. But it's also really fucked up. So I like to try to find the positive things and everything.
That's a good point.
Because then life just becomes really shitty if you don't.
True. Absolutely. I mean, the MMA should really help a lot. This is going to really, I mean, increase the amount you're getting paid and stop labels. I mean, do you work with labels at all? No, right?
I've worked with some distribution, some management, but...
Right. I mean, this is gonna kind of neuter like the distro kids and stuff, because I don't know if you saw this move that Spotify did.
Yeah,
where
you can directly upload.
Yeah. So I think that's gonna take out that kind of third party, because you don't have to pay for uploading your shit to Spotify.
But just to Spotify though.
That's just for Spotify.
Yeah.
But I mean, you still have SoundCloud
And Apple Music.
and shit. I mean, can you break that down? Like, what is the process of, say you were to, I mean, you just dropped a track actually today. So like, could you just talk about that process of like what you went through to upload that? Like,
So, well, the track today was Moscow Freestyle with my friend Miles Ballard. That was just on SoundCloud, but I dropped a track 2 weeks ago called Great Escape. And so I distributed that to TuneCore. It's a $10 or $15 a year charge, and they distribute it to Apple
for the song.
For the song.
Okay.
And then they distribute it to Apple Music, Spotify, and you can pick the release date, and then it's on streaming platforms. Okay. And then, you know, when you get paid for that, it goes to TuneCore, and then from TuneCore, it goes to your PayPal.
Wow. So say you were to drop a whole project, let's say that's like 10. So you're paying $100 a year for that project essentially. Wow.
Some distribution companies try to charge you $50 a song. Like,
what?
Fuck record union on the low. Like, y'all scammers.
$50 a song. Oh nah, I'm about to hop into the streaming bag.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if this podcasting shit is gonna work out anymore. Like, hold up, damn. All right, well, I think that should kind of do it for that. I hope you guys look into the MMA. I'm going to put this Verge link in there for anybody that's interested, especially if you're an artist, because you should really always stay informed in what's kind of going on behind the scenes, especially anything coming out of the White House in 2018, because, you know, God knows what's going on over there. I wish I could be like a fly in the wall in that room some days.
Even know. I'd probably off myself.
Yeah.
I'd be like, y'all are fucked.
Yo, that fly is like running itself into a window. What's going on over there?
Oh, poor guy wants to get out.
So we're gonna take a short break. Keep it locked to the BusyWorks podcast. We got Aaron and Oren in the room. Be right back. BusyWorks.
Pretty game, baby.
What's up, guys? You are now locked into the BusyWorks podcast. It's your boy Angry Black, locked in with Aaron of Brigade USA and Oren, aka the real Oren, aka.
Hey.
What's up? All right. So AKA. For better or worse, you performed at not for better or worse, but for better or worse, Webster Hall, which is a legendary venue in New York City. R.I.P.
That was
was that one of your first performances?
It was my third. I opened for Smokey Margella, you know what I'm saying? All G, ASAP gang, you know.
Hey.
It was a pretty fun show. My friends who work for Marino Infantry were like, yo, we're doing this stuff with ASAP. Like, we're friendly with you. You should come out and perform. And, like, I did, like, a 30-minute set. Super fun.
Was that in the basement?
Yeah.
That basement is crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like...
I was, like, kind of drunk on stage. Like, it was, like, a vibe, though, you know? I think my mom was there, which is embarrassing. But, like, yeah.
You were feeling it, though. What kind of shit? Like, what was the vibe down there? Like,
there was, like, 100 people down there. We were all just, like, getting sweaty, yelling, like, you know, people trying to smoke in the back room. And just, like...
People trying to smoke or people smoking in the back room?
People smoking in the back room. People trying to smoke in the audience. You know what I mean?
Okay. No. I mean, it's kind of sad that place got shut down just because, like, I feel like when you're first moving to the city, especially as, like, a young person that's, like, 18, under 21, that's where you go.
That's it's probably, like, one of the only places I've ever gone, like, for shows.
I mean, it's a fucking creep
Didn't
town.
they shut it down?
Yeah,
it's
done.
For better or worse, man.
But they're
remodeling it, but I don't think it's going to be the same shit after. I think it's going to be, like, more upscale.
AG owns it, I think. And they're just like a huge conglomerate. Okay. And they're building like a hotel across from it. So like it'll be a real tourist spot now.
Oh, wow.
As if it already wasn't. But.
I mean, for the most part. But like that's 2017. So between 2014 and 2016, you weren't like making music at all.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit like what happened? Like what were you doing during that time period? Like
so I started going to college in 2013, NYU. I went to the business school for marketing. And like I guess from like 2011 to like 2013, I was doing like a lot of like SoundCloud drops. And then from like 2014 to like 2016, I kind of just stopped putting out music. I kind of realized that there was like a discrepancy between like the music that I wanted to make and the music that I was making. So I kind of just hibernated to like better figure out my message and my voice and like experiment a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And then once I started doing the Webster show, I started to like put out music again, and like I felt like I formally had reintroduced myself to the public as a musician.
I think every kind of artist needs that time period just to like chill for a little bit, just to like regather yourself. Like even the podcast was like on and off for like what, a year, 2 years, year and a half, some shit. Yeah. Just like because when you're in that kind of point, like kind of figuring out, like it feels like you're rushing yourself or like you're pushing yourself to force shit. And like if you were to like say if you were to drop something in between that time period, like it might have not sounded as your best work. Like some shit that you're putting out now. Like
I mean, like I definitely like. I felt pressure to put out music, you know, because like on SoundCloud it's very like put it out, an instant reaction, you know. But like, I just needed a break. I needed to figure out like what I was doing, why I was doing it, and like how I could turn like my music into like an entity, like an actual like force, like a lifestyle, you know. Right. And I don't even think that I started dropping music again in 2016, but I don't really think that I understood the vision of Orin until the summer, you know. So I just needed time to like marinate as an artist and like figure out more about myself, which is important, you know? Right.
So, I mean, one of the things that you describe yourself as in terms of your music is very dark. I watched the Mike interview that you did with, I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Chantel Simpson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you described your music as kind of like experimental hip hop R&B. And then I read the Hunger magazine thing that you did, and then they described you as like art rapper. And I looked at that, I was like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah.
But like, do you like what do you feel about labels? I know some people like are like, don't put me in a fucking box, like I'm an artist, like, or I'm this. Like, what is your feeling about labels?
I mean, like, I think that the through line between any of my music is Orin. But, you know, Orin might one day wake up and feel sunshiny like Miami.
Orin as the person?
As a musician,
okay.
Let's say. You know, I might wake up and feel sunshiny and drop a song like Miami. And then, like, 2 days later, I'm angry and I drop a song like Perfect Blue and I'm flexing. You know, like... Right. I think that my music is really based on like what I'm listening to and like my vibe and where I am. And so like if people want to label it, that's fine. But I'm always doing something new, you know? So however, whatever label you need to put on it to understand it, do that. But for me, it's just my music, you know?
Okay. So your music, I mean, your aesthetic in general and to some degree your fashion sense kind of really plays with the idea of gender fluidity, which I feel like in hip hop especially has kind of sort of to become more adopted. I mean, like we've seen like Young Thug, Jaden Smith, like these more notable figures kind of dabble into
my bad.
dabble into these things, and it's like kind of entering the mainstream a little bit. So what do you feel like it would take for like that to be accepted wholeheartedly, like on an everyday level? So like if one day I decided like I wanted to wear like a blouse or some shit, or I wanted to wear like a see-through netting or some shit, like what would it take for me to go outside and people to either not look at me weird or like, you know, call me a name?
I mean, like people just have to be comfortable with themselves. I feel like a lot of people aren't comfortable with themselves, and like they don't understand that like sexuality is like a spectrum, you know, like people are like, yo, you're mad mask, or like you're mad femme. And it's like, bro, like you are what you are, you know, if that's left or that's right, or if that's somewhere in between, like that's just what you are. And I feel like too many people, again, with the labels need to like box you to better understand it. But like sometimes those labels are taking away from the experience of what you're looking at. And so people just need to like be okay with like maybe not understanding something, but just being able to appreciate it.
I think for a lot of people too, it's intimidating in a way because you throw like, say you were to tell like somebody that's not from a major city, like, oh, sexuality is a spectrum. They're going to look at you like you're fucking crazy.
That's
like,
true.
Like, A, what the fuck does spectrum mean? B, like, B, like, what are you talking about? Type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. I think it has to be maybe dumbed down in a way or just made more digestible for a general audience.
I think places like major cities, are, you know, like the innovation, the curve, the innovation curve, where it's like you have your innovators, then your early adopters, and then it's a trend, and then it's like mainstream, and then it dies.
He's about to snap.
You saw those hand signs? We got it covered.
No, I just think that the mentality that he's touching on, you know, like just accepting things for what they are and not trying to label and put in a box. I think right now, you know, the major cities like New York City, like you said, or, you know what, not out in rural areas, I think we're the innovators, and right now we're kind of hitting the trendsetters area where like it's kind of becoming more nationally known. And I think what's just going to happen is the natural progression is we're going to make it mainstream, and then beyond that, like I'm not saying it's a trend like it's going to die. I'm just referring to the curve, and it's like that's what's going to happen. You know, like eventually, it's the same thing with music. You know, like I remember being a kid. You know, because you're from Jersey, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So like, remember being a kid and like the city had the best radio stations for like hip hop.
I mean, yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
where that's where everybody for miles got their music.
Exactly.
97,
Yeah.
105.1.
So you would like, you know, you'd come down here and listen to the radio and you're like, damn. And then like you'd go wherever you're from. Like I'm from like an hour and a half away, and I would go home and like know songs that nobody else knew.
Yeah.
And that's the
Oh
same
wait,
thing. It's like
they didn't beam that far to you?
not like it wasn't there yet.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like
Okay,
the songs weren't there yet, or like we're saying the mentality isn't there yet, but it's gonna beam out. You know, it's gonna like
Right.
become this mainstream idea.
So it has to start here and then trickle down to
Yeah, basically, it's just
Trickle
trickle down
west.
economics.
trickle south.
So, would the ideal situation be that like we get to a point as a culture where gender fluidity isn't even a discussion? It's
Exactly.
just accepted?
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
For
I
sure.
feel like I have some radical theories about race regarding that. I'm gonna hold that. That's a different topic for a different thing. I don't know if you guys are ready for that one.
Is
I
race
mean,
and
it's
gender?
like-
That's not.
Just throw it in there. And see
All
what
right,
happens.
see, you asked the question. All right, boom. So here we go. So I mean, my whole thing is that race is not real. Like that's some shit.
Oh yeah,
Agree.
I can
Yeah,
fuck on
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
so in that if in terms of your question, like is race and gender the same thing?
I wasn't saying because like the way you approached the question, I was like,
No,
wait.
yeah, but that's what I'm getting ready to say. Like, in terms of that, like, it's a spectrum, of maybe of like understanding. Like you made that shit up. Like, you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
for
Like,
sure.
That's
It's
what
just-
That's what somebody back in the day was like. Oh, you're darker
Well,
than me. You're
yeah,
black.
it's like we were saying yesterday. It's like we're a they and us species, and it's like we have to have like religion or something to kind of give us our tribe and be like, this is
Yeah.
us, you're them. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
we
like
don't fuck with
you
you
could
'cause, like, you're
describe
not
me
one of
as an
us.
American. Like you could describe me as somebody from New York or New Jersey. But I mean, don't just boil me down to like I have dark skin.
I would definitely agree. I think,
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you
I
talk,
think- yeah.
man. that's it.
All right, but you know what I'm saying? Because like somebody like you tell somebody that and they'll be like, "Yo, what the fuck you talking about?"
But that's
like
just-
who was that? That woman, Stacey Dash, I think, said some shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
You remember
what'd
that
she
was
say?
like this was like a couple years ago, like
I
maybe
didn't
like 20.
Stacey Dash ain't none of these girls got a clue.
I was like 2014 or some shit, and they looked at her.
what happened?
Because she said something along. I wish I could. I'm gonna find the statement.
Oh,
actually.
was it like, yo, I'm not like African American. I'm just
Yeah,
American.
or
Oh, I
even
vaguely
a
remember
more
that, yeah.
contemporary example on 444 when Jay-Z was like, "I'm not black, I'm OJ," and niggas were like, "What does that even mean?" Like,
Well, I think he was playing off of because from the dive I did on it was like OJ said in a quote, like he was being interviewed, he was like, "I'm not black, I'm OJ."
but that's what I'm
And then-
saying. Like to bring that reference back, people didn't even understand that because they're like, "Oh, OJ doesn't think he's black. That nigga's stupid." But it's like,
Well, yeah, that was pre-innovation curve days.
Exactly.
That was like
You know
when
what
it
I'm saying?
was.
So
That
it's
was
like-
that was one of the innovations that made it into like. it
Why
brought
we're
it-
talking
so
about
was-
it now.
Yeah, it's why we're talking about it now. It's like
Yeah.
that was
So
one of the starting
Jay-Z
things.
shouting him out, or was he dissing him?
he was shouting
I
him
think he
out.
shouted
He
him
was
out,
shouting
yeah.
him out. He was
Yeah.
shouting. But that's what I'm saying. He was bringing that reference back, and then
Yeah.
people are looking at that reference and then like kind of going back and then being like, "Well, OJ's stupid because he doesn't think he's black," or looking down on OJ because he said that, or looking down on Jay-Z because he made that reference. Little do you know, dummy.
You're stuck
Yeah.
in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to look at things. I think one of the most important things in life is opening up your perspectives, because most people, I wouldn't say most people, but I think a lot of people live their whole life in one perspective, and it's just their perspective. And I think, like, I've never done psychedelics, but I think this is the conclusion that people come to with psychedelics, is that they kind of become aware that I'm not the only one that thinks, like everyone else has their own point of view of thinking. And I think,
Including the plants.
yeah, like I think that shit's mad important, like seeing everything from everyone else's perspective and being able to like understand that, like, oh, okay, like I understand why you think that way. And, like I think this way, and we have our differences, but like we can come to a better conclusion that like satisfies both of us because we think, feel me?
Well, I think so because I remember someone told me a while back they were like, people try drugs. I was gonna say people try shrooms, but people definitely try drugs to experience a different perspective.
I think, yeah, like psychedelic drugs. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say like anyone's trying to do like crack and be like, damn, I'm trying to see what the crackheads are seeing.
If you think about it, like you ever been walking through like a Grand Central or something, and like there'll be like thousands of people, just thousands, constantly just walking through like the terminals and shit. And there'll be like a homeless person on the floor, and like no one's paying this person any mind, right? They're just like, whatever, I gotta fucking catch my train, right? I sometimes think about like, okay, on the opposite end of the spectrum, like how, like what's this homeless person doing on the floor?
Yeah, for sure.
That's got them like, yo, like fuck all these motherfuckers, man. I'm doing some crack right now.
I think some people kind of reach how me and Oren feel about just the simulation, and some people, you know, don't handle it properly, and that's the route they take. It's like, none of this matters. Like, fuck this. You know, like all these people are ants, and they're just doing their thing, going through the veins of Grand Central, and I'm just gonna sit here and tweak out. It's like, nah, you could like do the total end, the other end of the spectrum with that, and like go change your life and go make something amazing.
It's like that Gigi Allen shit we were watching. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to understand that the world is like a system and that there's a construct, but at the same time, like you've got to play that construct and you got to beat it. You know, you got to beat them at their own game. You got to realize that there's a game and you got to beat them at it. You know, you can't be so anti the system that like you're not working within it.
Yeah, and then they just cast you off.
Oh, they're like,
it's crazy that you say that.
Have you ever seen Gigi Allen, bro? He be tweaking.
Bro, this nigga ate his own shit.
Wait,
and he's running around stage butt naked. Yo, he said on a talk show, I fuck 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds. I'm doing my own thing. I was like, we were shit.
What the
Yo,
fuck?
he really said that.
Yeah,
Pull that
did.
shit up when you can. Not right now, because
I
that's
mean,
a whole,
I'm
that's
not
a whole
playing it up
experience.
now, but I will play that on the great
Play
team,
him
man.
eating this shit on
Yo, this Gigi Allen Bite It You Scum live is from like, I don't even know what year, but yo, he's butt naked screaming that. And everyone is like punk, and they're all like, they leave. Bro, like you got it. Like you're way more punk than us, bro.
Yeah, sorry, man. I think you're a little too far on this.
Yo,
one.
he's screaming like, bite it, you scum. And he's like all perched up. He just shits on the floor. And then he comes back over, he puts it in his mouth and spits it at the people. And they're all like, dude. And then in the interview, he's like, I'm a nonconformist. You know, like, fuck everybody. I'm doing my own thing. I'm breaking out of it. And it's like, you got to think like that, but don't go eat shit. And like,
Exactly.
You know, he was an extreme example of that. Same thing as like the Jay-Z quote. It's like he helped us to kind of like, oh, okay, like we can break the system, but like not, you know, like we don't have to be as extreme as you. Like it's kind of crazy.
I was having a conversation, or when I was a little bit younger, I would have this conversation with my mom about this exact same thing, and then she was just to tell me like, yo, you got to do like mainstream things because it's how you like get like acclimated, and it's how you step your foot in the door. And of course, like being young, like you're listening to this shit, it's like, yo, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, shut up. But like as I've gotten older, and then as I've kind of like played the game a little bit, like you realize, like you were saying, like you have to just even just dabble just a little bit, like, you know, all right, like I'll get a job, like I'll work, like I'll sign a W-2 here or there, you know what I'm saying? Like just because if you don't, then it just sets you back when you are trying to get benefits from that system, you know what I'm saying?
It's also going back to the 80% thing. I think, you know, kind of playing in the system a little bit, you learn how the system works, and then you know how to
subvert it and make your commentary on the system.
You know what I'm saying? Like
that's
Yvonne
a
Chouinard.
SAT word.
Yvonne
Okay.
Chouinard is amazing.
But those songs on SoundCloud are some of like your most popular shit too. Like, what was it like being so young and then getting that attention? Just like,
I was just like, I wasn't even like, I really don't know what I was thinking. I think I was just like in my bag, like making weird, like deep baritone songs over like weird SoundCloud beats, just like trying to express something.
right.
You know?
So is that something that you still take with you right now, with like the direction that you go in? Like when you get like a pack from a producer or some shit, like like is that kind of the stuff you look for? Like when you get a pack, like what is kind of your thought process when you're like selecting beats and like looking for music and shit, or looking for sounds, right?
I've been producing a lot more, but with music in general is really just like a vibe. Like when I listen to some shit, I'm like, can people bump? Like it depends on what the intent is. Like if I'm trying to make a banger, it's like, can people bump to this live? Like what's going to be the melodic line? What's the content of the song? Like what is the narrative? And then how can I tie those together to create a package? Like what will the cover art look like based on these lyrics and the vibe of this? You know, I'm just thinking about it as like a package, but also just like, what am I trying to communicate? What is this emotion or this thought or this moment in time? And how do I like properly encapsulate that?
Damn. Wow. When's the last time you heard that? This is the first time, honestly.
I just like that. He said this yesterday. Basically, it was like we both are getting better at. How'd you say? You were like at the vision, like
we're trying to
executing like a vision. We're getting better at like all the little details of creating this like bigger vision.
Well, he started building a package.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know
It's like we're getting better at like doing that as creatives.
Every piece of it, like you said, the intent, like the beat itself, the cover art, it's all a different component to the overall delivery. And I feel like for a lot of people, they just record some shit in the studio, fucked up, put it on SoundCloud, gas it up.
I think the internet plays like the internet plays into that facade where it's like, kids like Lil Pump can blow up overnight, and other kids are like, I just got to dye my hair green, rap all crazy, and I could blow up overnight too. And then we just have this flood of like that style of rap, and it's like Lil Pump did it because he became a character, and like before anybody else did.
Yeah,
it's like he's like Oren's a character, and it's like he's presenting this package to people that can identify with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you was gonna say something? Oh no. Okay. I was gonna say, so like, is the character that you present in the music, is that you, or are you a different person from the character that you play?
I think it's just like me, like it's just me, just a little bit more geeked up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you just take the best parts of you.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
you exaggerate it.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like exaggerate the best parts of you, or like the parts you're most confident in, or even parts you're not confident in.
Exactly.
And you just like, if somebody else can identify with it, it's like, here you go.
On the plate.
Like,
Right.
All right, so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here. This is definitely up your alley, Oren. So I'm gonna see what you're gonna do with this one. So in that same mic interview that I mentioned earlier, like actually the whole premise of that was cryptocurrency and hip hop and just kind of cryptocurrency in general. So I want to know. I mean, I'll put the link in the description. I'll play the video in the background actually, so you guys could see it and look at it. I won't break it down because they kind of covered a lot of the bits and pieces of that. It was really just kind of a explanation of where hip hop is with cryptocurrency in terms of who was getting involved in it, where that's headed. They had cryptocurrency like insiders, and they had Oren, Old Dirty Bastard's son, and just some other faces in that industry that speak on it. But I want to know, how did you get into that? Like, were you in on the ground floor when people were like buying drugs off of like the dark web, or was that like a little bit after when you got into it?
Bitcoin was made in 2008, 2009.
I think.
I really got into cryptocurrencies around like 2000 and like, let's say like 15.
Okay.
My friend, like talking about streaming and being dissatisfied, my friend and I were trying to figure out how could we use blockchain technology to track artist revenues and like payouts and streams. And so like 2-3 years ago, we were thinking about like how could we get the technology and the funding to be able to kind of start our own streaming platform based around blockchain. And so that was when I got into it. And then, I went to business school, so I had some friends who were like, yo, Oren, like, you're probably not going to buy Bitcoin, but there's a shit called Ethereum. You should get some of it. It's like $50 right now. It's going to shoot up. So, I just got in early enough, learned about the technology, followed a lot of like subreddits and just read as much as I could about it. And then just really started to invest. And so like I had a lot of savings and like savings from like high school and stuff like that I put into it. And then I kind of made some money before that big bubble. And like I knew it was going to be a bubble. So like I sold during and like bought back during the low. So I kind of just like got in early enough, educated myself. And then like.
Right. Do you mine at all?
Not mine, no. I thought about it. I wanted to get a bit miner, the L3, like the amp miner. Like I thought about it, but the energy consumption, because like you need like, it's like a tower just running all the time. And then like you have to download a program, and I didn't know if I'd be able to navigate it. So I just thought, let me just buy and sell. Like,
right.
I
mean, it does seem like a lot more difficult than it appears, but like once you kind of get a hang of it. I'm not into it at all, but I build computers, so like I've had people buy shit off of me, and then they're like, oh yeah, like I try to sell it to them for the high because I know they're gonna use it for mining and then run that say video card into the ground or some shit. But
that's cool.
Do you see yourself making like your own coin and maybe like creating your own like kind of economy? Because I know part of the mic segment was ODB's son kind of making the dirty coin like a whole like thing where everybody is facilitated. Like if you want to be into Old Dirty Bastard, like you're doing everything to dirty coin.
I think that like right now the problem with cryptocurrencies is that there's a lot of projects, but none of them actually have like real world value. So like people will make a random coin, but it's like, what does that actually do? Like besides putting money in your pocket as the owner, so if in the future I have a project and I think that like some sort of utility token could help me and like, maybe paying out people, like what if you did what Kodak did, and what if Aaron's like, yo, like, we're taking photos and people are taking our photos. So you're like, all right, let's create a blockchain where every photo has a specific coin and every photo has a specific ID, and then people get paid to like use the rights to that photo using cryptos. Like, it just needs to have like real world value, basically.
So can you, I mean, without divulging all of the secrets, can you like break down in layman's terms what the blockchain is exactly?
So like,
I don't think it
Blockchain
should
the
be
game.
secrets.
Yeah.
You know, like it should be common knowledge.
yeah. Okay, so blockchain is basically like, I'm gonna explain it real simple.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. You're good.
So like, this is the blockchain, right?
Okay.
He's sending money to you,
Okay.
right? So that money that gets sent to you, that transaction gets logged on the blockchain.
Right.
You send money to me, that transaction gets logged here. So the
That's yours
blockchain just
now.
keeps track of all the transactions.
So it's a log.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what makes it different from a regular log is that with like, you know, Chase Bank, they can change those logs because it's digital. They can type into it, or they could just like, you know, change the number and lie, which is why we had the crash in 2008. With cryptocurrencies, every transaction is on an immutable database, which basically means you can't change it, you can't corrupt it. So once it happens, it's there forever. So it kind of provides transparency to the financial market.
Right.
Isn't it like anyone can view the log too?
Anybody,
Like
good
I
point.
can like fact check you on a transaction you did if like I think you're trying to play me for money.
Well, can't there be a bad thing as well? Because I mean, like I
The
said,
thing is, though, is that every like sending money from A to B, you guys both have like private addresses.
okay,
Yeah,
see, that was
it's
gonna
like,
be
yeah,
that was gonna be my
it's
thing. 'Cause, like,
encrypted.
say if you know
It's
I
encrypted,
wanted to
yeah.
buy a pound of weed from somebody, and then like
Why
you
you
know, I
gotta bring
don't.
it to the we're trying to make this a
Yeah,
well,
it would
I
just
mean,
be
yeah,
random
exactly.
nigga bought weed from random nigga.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I don't, the drugs is just like the
transaction
most
happened
real
in
world example I
California,
could
by
think of. But all right, yeah.
I
So,
think that's one of the things that they're using against cryptocurrency though, you know, is like people are buying drugs and they're killing your kids. It's like, but there's also so many benefits to it. So.
There's a freedom to it to
Yeah.
like use your money. You know, like if a bank crashes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That bank holds your money, right? But with cryptocurrencies, you own your money, whether it be on like a private USB or like a separate offshore, whatever. So if this bank crashes, you still have your money as long as the value of that coin doesn't crash.
Right.
Can I ask a question about that too?
No.
Why do you think? Well, I feel like out of all the industries, like hip hop gravitated towards cryptocurrency more.
That's just because
than
hip hop
most.
Hip
artists
hop is punk.
Yeah, exactly. We're the new rock stars. Like hip hop has like the biggest reach right now, I would say. So like
So the
it just makes sense.
punks and the nouveau punks.
Yeah, exactly. It's like crypto is like a punk concept in theory, and like
Yeah.
hip hop is punk in concept. So I think they just go hand in hand. It's like,
Yeah.
it's breaking out of the system. It's like,
I think
nah,
in a
fuck
way
this.
too, like people are just looking for a way to diversify their bonds as well. Like you know,
Yeah, also
According
true.
to Wu Tang Financial, yeah.
Yeah.
no, yeah. Also,
That's the
on some
only
real
place I
shit,
bank.
like, you know, like the hip hop money's not coming in for that much longer. I mean, like a good artist really has like a shelf life of sorts. So you gotta find a way to kind of do something with that bread at some point, unless you want to be Lauryn Hill and then go to jail for taxes or some dumb shit. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
True. Everything is everything.
Yo, that whole story. I mean, she lived in my old town in Jersey, so it's always funny to me because like her kids were always around, and then like I just felt bad at some point. You know, like I don't know. I could go into that.
That sounds like some internal pain.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Yo, the miseducation of Lauryn Hill is
a
a
great
very
album, bro.
Yeah, it's iconic.
Oh my
special
god.
project. Like,
That artwork is so iconic. Like,
dude, and the skits with the kids. in
Yeah,
it,
they're
come on.
dope.
yeah,
Classic.
that's a great album.
I
for
bump
sure.
that on Saturdays when it's sunny and I'm waking up and I just
That's definitely that's definitely
You know?
a summer morning vibe.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's a summer morning vibe. Have some sort of green plant somewhere. A window.
So shifting gears again, and I think this is maybe like the last couple questions here, unless of course you have something over there, Zeke. But one of my favorite Earl Sweatshirt lines is "Too black for the white kids, too white for the black." So do you feel like, and in that Hunger Magazine interview, you kind of mentioned being an outsider, especially as a black man. So do you feel like you didn't belong on either spectrum, kind of? Like,
Most definitely. And to be honest, that Earl Sweatshirt line really identifies with me because like I like was trying to make that like a moniker, like TBTW. Like I really, yeah,
oh shit.
yeah. Like I really like fucked with that line when he said that because I was just like, bro, like You know, like I never really felt like I fit in with like the hood niggas, but like I definitely don't fit in with the white niggas. They're like, you're black. So it's like I've always just been like Oren, you know?
Yeah.
And so I've just had to be comfortable like being myself, whoever that is, you know? So yeah.
I think that's one of the things that like gravitated us towards each other as friends. Cause like I feel that way from like a different perspective where it's like, I look white, but I'm Spanish. Spanish kids are always like, nah, you're white. And white kids are always like, nah, you're Spanish.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
And it's like also, but not even from a racial place. It's like I used to listen to metal and like wear Vans when that wasn't cool. And like I skateboarded and all the kids in our school were like, you know, wearing whatever the
Jordan.
And they'd be like, damn, bro, like, what are you doing? You know, like, and it just, it also, it didn't help the Spanish things. Even my mom would be like, yo, like, why are you dressing like a white kid? Like,
yo, your mom's hilarious. Aaron's mom clowns him all the time. It's so funny.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember Pharrell came on BET one time and she's like, see, he skateboards, but like he looks cool. And I was like, damn, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? So like, I was like,
It's totally unfair.
bro, like I was always like the black sheep, but I feel like he feels the same way. And I think that's why we can see shit from the same perspective. It's like, we both kind of had the same struggles in different ways, which is amazing.
As far as outsiders, though, do you guys feel like is there anywhere you guys feel like you fit in?
I think
around people who are just being themselves,
like genuine. But I think that's the whole point with Brigade. It's like I'm trying to build something for kids like us, like, you know, a platform where they can identify with and gravitate towards, and everyone who's like part of the platform, it's familial vibes, you know, like all the kids who are commenting on all the pictures and stuff, like they can all there's a few kids who have hit me up like I've made friends with like kids in the comments, you know, and like I text them every day now, and it's because we have the same attitudes towards things, and it's like exactly like that's what it's all about. We're just building this thing that we can all plug into and be like, I feel accepted. Like I feel, because that's what everyone wants, you know, you want to feel accepted.
What's something someone said in the comment sections that you were like, yo, I fuck with you? Like,
honestly, I don't even know off top, to be honest. I feel like a lot of people, some people try to like,
the Brigade comment section gets spicy sometimes.
Yeah, I gotta jump in.
I feel like
there.
people try to like, I don't know, like they're looking for that acceptance, but like from me. But I don't want to be Brigade. Like I just want to be this guy doing it, and I want Brigade to be its own entity. But I feel like kids will comment shit like trying to get like my acceptance, and I'm like, just do you, man. Like,
don't worry.
You know, like don't worry about what I think. You know,
I think shit like this helps in a way too, because the more you kind of do press shit, and the more you kind of put yourself out there and put that message, like.
But that's the thing. It's like a double-edged sword, because I also want to be off the grid. Like, you know,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, as you shift the focus maybe to Brigade instead of like Aaron the person, like, and then Brigade the brand. It's like Supreme in a way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people didn't even know who James Jebbia was for the longest time. You know what I'm saying? Like you just identify with Supreme the brand more so than like him the person, because he's so low key and out of like the way that like even if you did know who he was, you can't really vibe with him on any level, because it's not like.
That's similar, what I want. It's like I want Brigade to be this thing that you vibe with, and me, I'm just, you know, going crazy with a bunch of other crazy people and like making things that you guys can vibe with. Like, you know, like that's the dream for me.
Are those the going crazy hands?
Yeah, that's when you're just you're graphic designing in this hand, and you're taking photos in this hand, and then you're slamming your head on the keyboard. You know, like
I got you.
Doing the same thing on an MPC on a plane.
You gotta have the open hands like this.
Is that Kanye? Where he like, he's feeling this shit.
Oh yeah. Wait, you talking about the video where he's like Kanye?
Every time I see it, it's like there's no audio to it.
And it's Kanye
just
with the
like,
shades.
Yeah.
He's just like
Oh,
on
the stunner shades,
shit,
the white stunner shades.
Yeah, no, they're like black.
No, it was like they were like black shades, and he was wearing I think like a dark green hoodie or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just in his bag at that moment. Like I've never seen anyone just like.
That's what I'm saying. You're like, I want to be there. Like I don't want to be on display.
He had the energy of a whole blues band in one person.
That's fire.
Yeah.
Like he was
Yo,
just,
the stunner shades was were a moment in history.
Yo, for real, bro.
Yeah.
Look what he did.
Crazy. All right, so last question here, for me at least. So one question I always ask everybody that comes in the podcast is to just be more relatable and kind of make this for everybody, is if you had a piece of advice for your fellow creative, what would that be for both you guys? Just, you know.
Do what you love, be yourself, and just keep it G.
For a creative, I think be yourself, like know who you are. I feel like a lot of people can't explain who they are. Like if you're put on the spot, like if you're like, hey, who are you? They're like, I'm Aaron. Like, I don't know. Like, know who you are, be true to that. And then also indulge in as much art as possible. Like,
True.
like Oren puts me on to amazing movies, like music, like just indulge in as much art as possible. And then that's where all your craziest ideas will come from. Because great artists steal. Like, from other platforms.
Their influence.
Yeah, you're not copying shit.
DK influenced.
No, you feel me? Just invest in, or indulge in as much art as possible, because I think it opens your eyes. It gives you better perspectives on things.
Read books, man.
Facts. 45 minutes a day, every day. You'll finish a book a week. Brigade Book Society.
It's a mental exercise.
I'm dead. BBS.
Bro, I got the logo. I just designed it today.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me see. What the fuck?
Oh, we gotta get
I'm
some.
about to make
here.
bookmarks on this.
BBS kind
Oh
of sounds
my
like
God.
a porn website. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Check it out. We got the Brigade Book Society
oh, that's
emblem.
based on the sticker logo,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's where I got it from.
Do I have the
I'm
sticker
gonna,
on this table? No, I don't have the sticker
no,
on the table. But.
I'm thinking about like including bookmarks in everyone's orders from now on, just like free,
Ooh.
just to like get kids like active. Because reading is so powerful. Like, literally, we were talking about this. Like, they were killing people for trying to learn how to read. Like, why would you not read?
Yes, bro. Niggas be like, man, fuck a book, nigga, man, fuck education. It's like, nigga. Like, they tried to keep that shit away from you. Like, why would you not? Like, it gets me mad.
Yeah. That's Eddie just related to that. He's like, damn, I'll be saying that. Nah, for real though, knowledge is power. Like, if you have as many perspectives as possible and like as much information as possible, you can change anything. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's whatever.
too funny. You got anything?
Nah, that's it, man. Would you guys mind dropping where we could find you?
At Real Oren on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You know what I'm saying? SoundCloud.com/Oren Campbell. Listen to that shit. Just dropped Mascot today. Some new shit coming out. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
You know what the fuck it
Innovative
is.
video he did for that one.
Thank you.
At Aaron Mald _, AARON. We know ERINs out here. At Brigade USA on Instagram, brigadeus.com.
Oh, why is why'd you come up with the name Brigade? That's what I wanted to ask.
Good question.
Run it back one time. It was for, like I said, just like it's a thing that I want kids to identify with, like for the outsiders. And I wanted a name that makes sense. Brigade is like a militia. It's like a family, so it's like it's an entity that you could be part of. And then USA is because shout out to all the little brands putting USA in their names right now. I see that.
Because we're
Type
all about
corny.
the stars and stripes, baby, America. We're about to drink some Budweiser. after
No,
this.
USA though is because traditionally in streetwear, you'd put New York or LA, like Diamonds LA and Supreme New York, and shit like that, because you're kind of claiming your territory. And I thought to myself, if I wanted this to be something that kids can identify with, that last piece of territory, or territorial identification, I guess, that's so important. So if I open it up to the entire country, then literally, a kid from Oklahoma could be like, yeah, Brigade's like our brand, I'm one of them. Like, growing up, I thought Supreme, being from New York, it's like, Supreme's our brand, like they're putting on for us, where it's like, we're putting on for the whole fucking thing. So it's like, what up?
All right, so the way I like to close it out is with the tags. I'm glad we got that. And then shouts out for the people that supported you. Anybody that you want to recognize, like just any shout outs that you think you want to give. I mean, just give us a short list.
I mean, man, shout out to my family, my sisters, my girlfriend, my boy Warren, my boy Joey, Kevin, Jay. You know what I'm saying? Just any of the homies. Shout out to Aaron. Shit.
I was going to drop that one too. Shout out to my mom for believing in me. My girlfriend, she's like the better half of Brigade. Elijah, Vinny, my brothers, Oren, the entire OG Brigade family. Like John, Dante, Andy, Angelo, Estrada. Shout out to Estrada Design. Big facts with the collab over there. Shout out to Moros with the you feel me? Moros.
Somewhere out
It's
there.
that new shit dropping. They don't even know yet though. Yeah, just shout out to everybody. Like, it's been nothing but love. It's crazy. I'm like beyond grateful. I wake up and I just want to cry sometimes. Like, it's crazy.
And shout out to Obama, man. You know what I'm saying? That's my nigga.
That's my president. My Lambo's still blue. You know what I'm saying?
Not my president.
All right, guys. Yo, thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate. I mean, I know
Thank
we
you
have
for
to
having us.
reschedule a couple times, but
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure
yeah,
to be
man,
here.
absolutely. So that kind of wraps the episode, guys. I just want to say two things real quick. Remember to vote. Vote is important.
True.
Facts.
Throw that in there
Register.
real quick.
Big facts.
November 16th. And if you like the podcast, please give us a rating on iTunes. That really helps out a lot. And just once again, thank you guys for listening. If you want to check us out, it's at BusyWorks Radio on Twitter, Instagram. And yeah, so we will talk to you later.
Yeah. He said he gon' rock out, bringing the Glock out. Enemy hostile bitches from Moscow. I'm on that she off now. Acting so docile, lucky to